We have access to industry leaders in areas such as accounting, engineering, insurance, and legal. Not to mention that if you have 3 to 15 board members and key volunteers added, you get a one low price of that. So save the date for our Community Association Roundtable discussion, which is going to take place on November 5th. And that is free to home leaders and managers to attend. For our managers and our management companies, as always, you have access to the print, online, and online directory of all the industry leaders to help your communities navigate through unparalleled times. You can earn continuing education credits at free or discount rates and utilize our 2020 virtual trade show video catalog, which will help you navigate through all of our top industry professionals. As a business partner, you can continue your opportunity to grow and build your brand, and we are committed to helping you get a platform for such of your different industries and using Zoom seminars to provide necessary education and support to your businesses. We have a lot of different great events coming up, so I'm just going to highlight some of them now. If you haven't already, you should check out our virtual expo. It's launched. Visit it at CAI-NJ.org, and you can see all the different scheduled releases or the ones that have currently already been released. Great catalog. Some people made some really great videos, and you should definitely check it out. On Wednesday, we have the Wednesday webinars every Wednesday at noon, so you can join our educational programs, allowing for CEUs for those who need the accreditation. And we have LAC coming up on Tuesday, October 27th at 12 o'clock for all members and non-members to attend. So register on our website. As always, we are committed to providing the best possible opportunities, even through all these unparalleled times. If you have any questions about your membership, feel free to reach out to me, Amy Shorter, or we have a great staff at CAI-NJ who can help you and assist you. So I'm going to turn this over to our panel today for their great expertise on this event. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Amy. All right, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Brian Griffin is an associate of the law firm Griffin Alexander, who concentrates his practice on matters involving community association law, commercial and residential landlord-tenant law, and land use. He attends landlord-tenant court, community association executive and open meetings, and planning board appearances. Mr. Griffin has been on the CAI committees for the past few years, including FAST and the editorial committee. Brian?
Thanks. Everyone hopes that privacy will only increase over time. Even our closest friends and family and all those people we know that love to post on Instagram and Facebook and maintain their LinkedIn accounts. What they post, they want to have the option to post. In other words, if someone were to videotape any one of us and post it on Instagram or Facebook or other things, that would be unacceptable in our view because we didn't post that material. So one of the things that everybody hopes is that privacy increases over time, but in reality, the future of privacy rights will probably stay the same for a period of time while the rest of the world continues to adjust and move on. Legislation is usually the last thing to evolve. So, for example, there's still legislation out there that requires things be sent by certified mail, and all of those ways. Even the most simple of notices must be sent by certified mail with return receipts. They don't provide for any kind of electronic communications. So legislation regarding privacy rights are probably going to stay the same for quite some time. So, but there is still hope, of course, that legislation is passed that increase privacy rights over time. But in terms of actual privacy and what we're going to see in community associations, privacy itself, regardless of the laws governing privacy, privacy itself will probably diminish over time for primarily 3 reasons. The first is the ability to store massive amounts of data in very small locations. will result in an elimination of any kind of motivation to erase data, to remove data, or otherwise consolidate data. So in other words, if you were recorded by somebody's phone, or something was put on Instagram involving you, or something was put on Facebook involving you, it may last for a very long time. You know, we could say forever, but obviously there are some limitations, but it may last as long as your lifetime before someone even considers trying to take it, to remove it from some kind of location where the information is stored, because the ability to store that information is you know, you can store it in massive amounts of quantity without actually taking up much space. The second reason is the size of computers and electronic devices. They're only getting smaller. So your ability to record on computers and record, you know, you can record things on your cell phone now in the palm of your hand, and the actual camera on your cell phone is even smaller. It's incredibly tiny, and if you were to hide that size of a camera around anywhere, the person that you're recording would never even be able to see it. And the third reason is the ability to invade your computer and other networks is only growing. People are getting better at hacking things, finding, you know, getting into your computer, not being detected, getting the information they need, and you may never even realize that you were hacked in the first place. There are spam emails happening all the time, all around us, and I get calls on my cell phone and on my work extension asking me about my car warranty and all those other spam calls. I have no idea how they get this information, but they get the information. So for those three reasons, primarily, privacy will only diminish over time, and you know, we can only hope that the legislation can catch up with that and provide some kind of right. But determining that right is very difficult. It's not an easy thing to do. For example, case law governing reasonable expectation of privacy and what that actually means is very convoluted. And these are, you know, case law is a boring way of saying stories. You know, they look at people's stories in the past and the court makes rulings on it. And once you take all of those stories and consolidate them and find the court rulings and consolidate them, it's very hard to determine when somebody's reasonable expectation of privacy has actually been diminished. So for that reason, privacy will probably diminish over time, and we hope that privacy rights will increase over time. So taking that and branching off of that, and what that means to community associations today is that there are going to be devices like drones flying through communities trying to deliver packages. You've seen Amazon tried to launch that very recently, and they have the ability and capability in some areas to already start doing that. How that will affect associations is a big question. Ring has taken over the world. Everybody has a Ring doorbell nowadays. They have Ring cameras nowadays. What does that mean for associations when you can have Ring cameras installed, and essentially mass amounts of people in your community could combined or individually be able to spot things and record things that nobody else wants them to record? So the main idea is that there need to be rules in community associations, and what those rules are going to be difficult to determine, and it's going to be as difficult of a process for an association to accomplish as the legislators, you know, as it is for the legislators of New Jersey. So one of the things that you can do for drones is you can try to create rules in your community by speaking with those, you know, those entities. So in other words, you would speak and have conversations with Amazon, and you would try to determine what exactly they need in order to provide for drone deliveries and other things. And you would be able to create those rules based on what it is that they need and what it is that the association needs. So if the association can't have drones flying around without lanes, you know, it would create chaos and create crashes of other drones if other delivery services are operating them, and it could cause damage in the association and to other people, because things will be falling from the sky. It's not fair. You need lanes, and you need lanes to guide traffic. The other thing with drones is that they can't fly so low that they can start recording people in their homes. They can't have a view of what's inside your window. They're just delivering a package. They should fly over, drop down, go up, and that's it, and they should leave. it prevents the abuse of drones. It prevents the abuse of technology from recording people. That's something that obviously the association wants to prohibit. The other thing is prohibiting interference with drones. If drones are flying all over the place, how do you know that someone's dog or some individual member of the association or their guest is going to run into a drone or drive into a drone? There has to be, like I said, lanes to guide, but also there has to be a way to prevent interference with drones that is also intentional. You can't have kids shooting BB guns at drones. There also has to be federal licensing to be able to fly the drone. Amazon will probably have whatever qualification they need, but who knows if other corporations or entities will start trying to fly drones within your association. And then how can you allow Amazon to coexist in flying drones with other corporations or entities that are trying to either deliver packages or pick up things or drop off your food? Hopefully one day they can drop off my food right to my front door. That would be great. So and the same thing goes for Ring doorbells and other security technology. First, there has to be limitations on where it can be installed. If your Ring camera can be installed like a doorbell, that's great, but who's installing it and where is it pointing? Is it pointing to be used as a regular doorbell, or is it pointing more to your neighbor's house who you really, really hate? Are you trying to watch your neighbor through your Ring doorbell? Or and that goes for security cameras too. There's a really cool one for Ring where it has a security camera, but then it has security lights off the side, and that can be like a floodlight over a garage. So if you have more of a homeowners association where you own a lot and you have your own dwelling on your lot, and you have a garage and you put that light over your garage, it's like, well, where is that camera pointing? Can that camera point at your neighbors, and can you see what time they leave their driveway every day? And if you can see it, who else can see it? If your network gets hacked, or if someone tries to break into your Wi-Fi, can they also view it? It's a very scary thing. So there need to be rules about where it can be installed, how it can be installed, whether it's installed by a professional, whether it's installed into siding that is owned by the association. There are lots of things to consider. And lastly, the one thing that is a major concern and a major warning for associations, especially managers who have the power to view security cameras in common areas. It's nice when the operator of a security camera and the viewer of a videotape for surveillance cameras is doing the right thing. But there are going to be claims that the person viewing the security footage isn't always doing the right thing. And those claims can be false, or they could be accurate. And it could be a single mistake from a single individual. So let's say that there's a security camera watching the common area of the pool, okay? So let's say something happens at the pool. There's damage caused, okay? And someone wants to review that videotape. That person is going to be more than likely the manager. And they might have to enter a password, which restricts the view of the security cameras to only the manager, which is great. But the manager has unfettered access to that security camera. And so the security camera is going to be viewed by the manager, but someone may claim, how did you know to look at the security camera? Were you watching me all day? If you have unfettered access, who is supervising you? And those are the questions that you're going to see, and those are the claims that you're going to receive. And if you're not prepared for them, it can be scary. So what we usually do is we caution who can see that security camera footage. And what you should do is you should set up a system where multiple people have to come together and view the security camera footage together. So in other words, if you had a complaint that there was damage caused in a pool area, the manager would write down the time of the complaint, the location where the complaint occurred, and what actually happened. And the manager would go contact maybe a board member or two, and they would all sit down together, log into the security cameras, review the security camera footage, and make a written report of what they found and the times in which they viewed the security camera footage. So in other words, if something happened at 2 o'clock that you needed to review, you shouldn't be looking from 11 a.m. or earlier. You should be looking from 12 maybe to 5 p.m. or whenever the damage was over. You shouldn't be looking beyond the scope of what you need to look at. Then, you have witnesses that you only looked at a certain time on the camera and only for certain reasons, even if the complaint that you're receiving is anonymous, because those are the difficult ones. It's like, well, who'd you hear that from? That I damaged something in the pool area. It seems to me that you were watching me all day. you avoid those complaints by having multiple witnesses and keeping track of keeping written reports of anonymous complaints and other things. So the basic idea is that there needs to be rules made by associations that consider privacy rights in communities and using things for their purpose. Security cameras should be used for their purpose. Ring doorbells should be used for their purpose, not to spy on neighbors, not to have a view of neighbors. If your Ring camera can't be installed on the left side of your door without seeing your neighbor, maybe it can be installed on the right side of the door and then out of the view of your neighbor. So that's the basic idea. Those are the principles that govern privacy in associations, and they're only going to expand over time as technology expands as well.
All right, thank you, Brian. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them into the question box. We do have a couple here. The first one is, what is the current trend? Over the foreseeable future, will we be able to increase our privacy rights, or will they be further eroded?
Right, so the increase in privacy rights depends a lot on legislation, of course, but it also depends on the association's power to make rules, and those are the things that we talked about here. There should be resolutions in place already if you have residents wanting to install Ring doorbells. There should be policies and rules created for the use of those security cameras. There should be policies in place for a manager to review, the security camera footage. So the trend is that privacy rights will continue to decrease, and the privacy laws need to be increased as time goes on to counteract the diminishment of your privacy rights.
Great. And the next question is, there is an increasing use of drones for delivery. I can see an abundance of problems associated with such new technologies. What do you think associations will have to do about them?
Right. So again, they're going to have to make rules. Drones for delivery are not nearly as problematic as the recreational use of drones. So drones for delivery, like I said, they fly over and they should plop down, deliver a package, and be gone. And working with Amazon and other corporations or entities that will deliver things to a front door, working with them should be the way in which you can go about making your rules. But in terms of the recreational use of drones, that becomes more dangerous because you don't really know, there are no rules in the recreational use of drones until the association makes them. Other than of course federal licensing, you have to have pilot license and everything if your drone is over a certain size. There are regulations, but in terms of privacy rights, the privacy rights are that you can't intrude on someone's privacy, and it's very unclear at times as to what that could mean. So the association should make rules and adopt rules and resolutions as to what can and cannot be done in the recreational use of a drone, but also in the delivery of products from an entity into the private lands of the association.
Great, thank you. Oh, actually, one more question just came through. What about email communication with the community?
With the community, you said?
Yes, that's what it just said. What about email communication with the community?
Right, so that's a pretty broad question. Email communication with the community is a written documented statement. So you want to make sure that it's accurate when it goes out to the community, but in terms of the rights of privacy, you're not necessarily invading someone's privacy by providing an email to them, especially if it's used in an official capacity, like a newsletter that they know will be provided. I imagine that the concern is more focused on things like legal documents and cease and desist notices. Is it harassment to provide somebody, or an invasion of their privacy to provide them a letter by email? The general rule of thumb is that you want to provide people documents by email nowadays because a lot of people focus on email as a primary way of communicating, and it gets there faster so that they can see what it is that they're doing that may be wrong or get information that the manager needs to disseminate quickly. They can have that information in their hands faster. But in terms of a legal notice or something like that, it should always be provided also in addition to email. It should be provided by mail. And if you were ever to receive something that said, please don't email me, you're invading my privacy, that should be addressed based on, based on what it is that you're sending and why and what times. Some people have alerts on their phones, so when they get an email that their phone pings really loud, so don't send it at 3 in the morning. Just because you're up doesn't mean they're up. But there are certain, it's a very broad question, so I would like to hear more specifics on the major concerns, but the idea is generally if someone puts up a fight with you about it, you should review what it is that you're sending and why, and deal with it appropriately. Consult legal counsel, especially if it's a legal notice. There are some rules on fair debt collection practices that you can't necessarily continue to communicate with someone, especially if it's like a work email and they have objected to you sending them information through their work email. So it depends on the notice and why and what time and all of that. So but there are rights there, so you do have to be protected.
We got one more. What is the policy for a Ring doorbell that records sound? If it picks up a neighbor's conversation or guest at a door, doesn't that violate the New Jersey law, which requires at least one person must consent to taping a conversation? Is there a way to prevent sound on the Ring in the situations where the device picks up on the neighbor's conversation?
So I'm going to separate that. The first thing, I don't know if you can eliminate all sound on a Ring recording device. I'm sure that there are now versions of Ring. So there's like, the initial one that came out, then there's 5 versions after that. I don't know if all of those can be blocked. You can block sound, or even if they have the capability of recording sound, which I'm sure they do at this point. But so as to the New Jersey law, the one party consenting is the party recording. So the unit owner that is recording something through Ring, they're the party that's consenting to the recording. The other person doesn't have to consent. So if you're picking up a neighbor's conversation, you're the consenting party. But there are also some prohibitions in the law. Again, it's all through case law mostly. I don't think that there's there might be a wiretapping statute that says that you can't record audio as easily as you can for something like only video without audio. So for your question in particular, picking up a conversation, that might be prohibited by law. That's something that would need to be looked into because it may violate wiretapping, and it depends on the way that you're using it. Again, if you're recording and you're picking up a neighbor's conversation, that's a lot different than recording the neighbor's conversation through a Ring doorbell. You recorded it, you're looking at it, and you're disseminating it. Those are all 3 major things that are a major concern. If your Ring doorbell just happens to pick up a conversation and you never even knew about it, life goes on. But if you're trying to use it for an incriminating purpose or something like that, that might become a problem, especially with the audio recording rather than the video recording.
Great. Thank you, Brian. If there's any other questions, we can circle back around at the end. We're going to move on to our next speaker. Kevin Oliver of GNC Electronics is an internationally known business executive and professional security consultant. He is an expert in the fields of security management, integrated security design, construction and property management and development. He specializes in the organizational business structure and security design on most commercial property types. He consults with business owners and managers, insurance agencies, and government agencies on how to reduce risk and increase operational flow. Today, Kevin will be discussing new cloud-based security camera and access control technologies. Welcome, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you. What I'm going to do is segue into some of the things that Brian was talking about, since he brought some of the common issues that are coming up in associations now, especially with Amazon. Amazon actually reached out to us to partner with us on a few solutions for communities. So what I want to start off with is on the access control side, and this is more informational for everybody more than anything else. Amazon as a company recognizes that just at their front gates of the communities, they're causing many problems with just packages being delivered all day long. One of the issues that you currently have is, unlike UPS or the Postal Service, where they come once a day to make deliveries or maybe twice, Amazon is delivering multiple times a day with multiple trucks coming from all different areas of the country and county, which is causing backups at security guard booths coming into gated type communities. What they have done, and they've reached out to do with us and other integrators around the country, is they partnered with us, working with communities that already have access control systems in place and guard booths and their gated communities, and even virtual concierge type systems. And Amazon is willing to give free technology to those associations and pay for our labor to go in and connect it, so that when they're making their deliveries, what they do is they assign a package to, let's say, one of their delivery trucks, and it has to go into a community. That delivery person actually gets an email directly to their personal phone that connects directly to your access control system when they're within 150 feet of the area. So then they can come in like a resident rather than a visitor, eliminating the need to stop at the guard. And it actually records to your access control information, so that you can actually track who's coming in and out of your community, while not bothering the guard to slow down or backing up that piece of the traffic area during the normal day. It also then gives confirmations for deliveries to the places that they're actually going within your community. So if they go through a different route throughout your community, they know immediately, and it can be tracked, so they're not just wandering around through the community. So when they have an address that they're going to, if they do not go directly to that address, it actually comes up to an alert to Amazon, and it's checked internally from them. If it becomes a problem for the association and an issue may come up, then that information can be retrieved directly from Amazon to the community via security. So that's one of the options that they're doing to actually try to eliminate some of the traffic that they're causing and the problems they're causing at either gated communities and even some of the high rises where they're having virtual packaging areas and virtual guard or concierge situations. I feel that what's going to happen in the future is they're going to actually sell that service to other entities such as UPS, Post Office, and other, so that you can actually track all of them also going through your communities. So they're not just randomly driving around, which should eliminate some of the other concerns that generally come up with just even letting any type of visitor within your community. Some of the other technologies that we are going to talk about today, I definitely want to go on to the video surveillance and the cloud-based video surveillance, and also cloud-based access control. It has been around for a number of years. It's just been terrible. Generally, you can get some video where it's cloud-based and it uploads some really shoddy video that can't be used for pretty much anything at all, other than maybe a snapshot or two. That has now changed significantly moving forward. A lot of that is now history as far as I'm concerned. We have a lot of situations now where we can actually connect into the existing infrastructure of your IT network at your clubhouse and other, to where you're just putting cameras within your own network. They're recording locally to the camera itself and then uploading to the cloud to view live. So what happens in those types of situations, you're eliminating a lot of the hardware that you would normally necessarily be required to have a full functioning camera system at your facility, whether it's for the pool, the clubhouse, the front gates. It doesn't much matter where it is. We can actually get hotspots and an internet connection almost anywhere at this point. It's just a matter of laying it out and doing the right design for your facility itself and how your community is actually planning on using it. If the internet actually does fail and it goes down, it is backed up locally on the cameras and then uploads later on when the connection connects again. Alerts are given out so you can actually address that internet connection or that disruption. There's all kinds of other pieces of the puzzle that you can use and outside of the typical camera needs. So generally people look at it as, what Brian was talking of, oh, something happened at my pool, and now I need to go and look for that and I got to do something with it. One of the concerns that he had brought up also was who's actually looking at that video. Well, we provide and others provide third-party services that's what we do for you. So you call up and you say, I had an incident between 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock, and this is what you should be looking for. We actually pull that video, we review it, we package it, put it into a little summary, and send it to the manager. Because reality is, even the existing camera systems that you have now, where you have it on site and you're trying to manage it yourself, what generally happens in our world is people put in cameras for some specific need, and then that specific need kind of goes to the wayside within 30 days. 3-4 months later, something else comes up. They can't remember how to even use the NVR or DVR, how to even look and retrieve the video. It might be something very important. There might have been something where the FBI comes in, local police, local authorities, because there may have been an attempted murder or something weird, and the management company is reluctant to even touch it. That's where the third party comes in. We actually can be called to come in and pull that video for you and work directly with local authorities to get that off correctly, so there's no issue of anybody saying that maybe something was corrupt, changed, or edited. Then we can certify it to the local authorities so they can use in court. So that has been used for many, many years now, but it is getting significantly easier and more apparent. It's happening more on a weekly basis rather than a monthly or every other month basis. When you're talking about cloud recording and security, generally the video for that is paid for by the length of time you want it stored for. So in certain circumstances, I'll give you a worst case scenario where you have like a retail store, like a slip and fall. They have to maintain video for over 7 years. For that scenario, holding that much data at one location on site is quite pricey. So what it ends up, the remote view and the remote storage becomes a more economical option. For condo associations, it generally varies, but people want to keep it as long as humanly possible. Generally, we tell people to keep it at least 2 to 3 months. You know, others keep it longer. You know, and it's just really economics and dollars. Obviously, you know, consult your attorneys of how long you should keep your own video, but it really comes back down to how much dollars and what you really need to do. You do have to remember you are a condo association. You are not Fort Knox. You are not a police department. You are not a jail. You know, you're not a casino. You are a condo association. So at the end of the day, you need to make it so it falls within your economic budget and makes sense for your association. On that, cloud-based services and in the security industry in general, it's starting to form more into the IT type services. So what you're going to start seeing more and more is service-based and license-based solutions, to where in the past you used to go and buy a camera system, you'd buy an NVR, DVR recording device, you'd buy a monitor, and it would sit in your office and it would just do its thing. And if you needed it, you would hopefully remember how to use it or call somebody in to help you. Those days are going away. Everything is now going to be license-based, to where you're paying it more of a service, kind of like you're paying for your Windows licenses for your to use Windows, or Windows 360 for, you know, any of your Microsoft services for anything from Word to Outlook to other. That's how the solutions are going to start coming out more and more, to where you're going to buy those types of solutions. You know, they're really trying to align it with how you're paying for your software services, but also your hardware services. So your internet connections and how you handle your IT service contracts. That's all going to start aligning now with how the services for access control and video are going to happen. What that does is give you a large benefit on the performance end of things, but you're going to have to start looking at your budgets and how you're actually dealing with that, because it is going to be a change in your budgetary item, moving it more from an operating expense rather than a capital improvement or a deferred maintenance type scenario where you can bring that in through other means. So that is definitely going to be a point of which you're going to need to be aware of as you move forward, especially as things move on the security piece of the puzzle within your community. More communities are now looking at quite a few different things as far as how they're handling their access control and how and what they're using their video for. There are many, many options out there. You just need to ask as far as environmental controls and management tools throughout your community that you can use the video for. Everything from managing how you verify your snow loads for snow removal, to pool temperatures, to environmental protection issues within not only the multifamily units, but even single units for your fire alarm systems and other life safety needs. But those are all things that now are going to be readily available for you at any given time. Questions on your side, Jackie? Can't hear you.
Apologize for that. Thank you. Is the cloud backed up?
Yeah, the clouds, look, the clouds is as ambiguous as you want to make it. I mean, it can be in someone's garage, or it can be a 2 million square foot facility in the desert. But yes, when you're doing cloud-based security, it's usually redundant in at least 2 to 3 places, and they generally put strategic locations on the East Coast, based in the north and the south, and then somewhere near the west, but not necessarily on the West Coast, more towards the desert. So anywhere from Arizona, Texas, Nevada areas. So it's generally more than redundant.
What type of cloud-based systems are available at this time?
Everything from access control to video to other. There's a lot of different solutions out there. Generally, they're custom based on what your specific needs are and what you really want to fall in your economic budget. But generally, we would come out, do site surveys to give different products. We generally work as an owner's advocate, so we don't follow one specific product type because it all depends on the actual solution for the customer itself.
What are the biggest differences between cloud-based and on-site hardware-based systems?
Right, so the number one thing is you're not going to have to pay up front for that large hardware just to get your system up and running. So typically, if you even wanted to add one camera, you would need to have to put in place some kind of recording device like an NVR or a DVR, and then a monitor connected to your computer to review it, on and on and on. Now that we have cloud-based cameras that are actually up to the level that I would say acceptable and beyond, you can put one camera in place and then add from there without adding any other additional hardware.
Okay. Does my internet connection speed matter?
All right, so on the newer solutions now, what happens is the cameras that are used specifically for cloud managed devices, it records locally and then pushes up to the internet, to the cloud. So you can actually look at it live from your phone or from your computer. If the internet connection drops out, you're not going to have that live view, but it will be recorded locally, and then that video will be pushed up later. So if you do have interruption, you're not going to have interruption in actually recording at this time.
One more here. What is the quality of the camera video when it's recorded over the internet?
All right, so this is the real question that if you're going to look at any video, the first question you should ask is, don't ever look at live video. You want to look at recorded video because that's what matters. Generally, it's after the fact. Everybody can show you a nice live camera. You're looking at one right now. Reality is, if you wanted this recorded and played back at a large scale over time, it degrades significantly based on the recording devices. So you're looking at you want to look at the recorded actual video. You don't want to look at live video. Anybody can show you live video that looks great. The cameras now that they have for cloud-based and being able to do that and push it and record out to the internet and make sure that it's recorded for you to have future use is incredible now. It's night and day of what it used to be. Before, you would get a nice blurry picture of a nice blurry person in a nice blurry area. And if you didn't know that person to recognize it, you would have no idea of identifying them. Now that has changed significantly.
We just got one more. Is the cloud account owned by the customer in case you lose the account?
So generally what it is, it's just like a subscription. Well, let me rephrase that. There's several different solutions. One of the solutions that we prefer to use at this point is more like a Microsoft type solution. Somebody's going to own it. Generally what ends up happening is you would pay us for the subscription, but the subscription would be directly through the manufacturer. So that at any given time, if something needed to be released or you needed to move on or something went sideways, you can actually go to another certified vendor for that solution and move that over. But there would have to be a release from both sides and move it over for not really financial purposes, but for legal purposes.
Great. That is all the questions for right now. If anybody has any further questions, feel free to send them over, please. We're going to move on to Chris. Chris Tenson is the Vice President and part owner of Jesan Construction, located in Newark, New Jersey. He has been in the industry for 31 years and possesses not only construction expertise, but also has held the AMS and CMCA designation during his 15+ years on the management side of our industry. Today, Chris will be discussing facade restoration.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the topic I chose to discuss today is really an acronym Eifs, which stands for Exterior Insulation Finishing Systems. And I thought it was a good topic because for those of you who have been in the industry for some years, it's also a controversial product from its inception to where we are today. So for those of you who are managing properties, you may have this on your property. Most of the times we've seen a lot of it on clubhouses and a lot of the active adult style communities, but also it's prevalent throughout the entire development for those developers that have done it throughout the property. This is no different, so to speak, as it's an application product similar to stucco, but it's more of an acrylic-based product versus a hard coat cementitious base. It serves the same purpose as vinyl siding, and you have wood siding, you have different variations of siding, and then you have stucco, hard coat stucco, you have stone, and then you have Eifs. Now, what's unique about Eifs is that this started back in the late 70s, early 80s. And the reason why it was so controversial, because at its initial inception, like any product, it was put on with the understanding that you would have no maintenance in the long term. What they come to find out over time, due to applications, workmanship issues and things of that nature, there was extensive water intrusion, which eventually turned into a tremendous amount of interior rot to the interior of the home. And that's kind of how this product became very controversial. It's a beautiful product when installed. And at its initial thought, it was going to be long-standing. Well, as time went on, numerous lawsuits ensued, mostly probably through the transition process, when engineers went ahead and did their investigative testing and identified problems of water intrusion where, again, interior damage was very prevalent. Lawsuits ensued through the years, and Eifs became a product that was really almost taboo to use on any type of exterior home or building. Since then, that has changed. And the reason why it has changed specifically is now the system, when it's put on, has a drainage system behind it. So any product now that's installed to the exterior of your building or your home has to have by code a drainage system. So any water that goes ahead and gets behind your system has the opportunity to weep out. It doesn't have time to be trapped in the system, cause interior rot, which cannot be seen, and cause literally hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars worth of damage if you're talking about an entire community who has witnessed this problem. One of the things that we have found is it is being specified by architects and engineers moving forward, and there's still kind of a battle of perception over the product. Obviously, with the internet now, you could go online and Google a product, and you still see a lot of the bad press that's out there. And in a lot of cases, there are a lot of associations are unwilling to use the product because of the bad press. And it's very understandable when an association has gone through multiple lawsuits in trying to resolve the problem that was initially installed, maybe at its time of construction. And when they go ahead and do a capital improvement project and they want to go ahead and replace it with the same type of material, because it is a very aesthetic pleasing product, the association still sometimes has a battle, we have found, with the constituents within the development, that why are we going back with a product that we went ahead and had numerous lawsuits because of what it did to us several years ago. So it is controversial in that nature, but with the new designs that have come out, it's a very attractive product. I find it to be probably one of the most attractive products out there because it gives a lot of different profiles that you could put around on your building. You have thicknesses of the foam that is installed. So to give you a brief idea of how this is applied, you would go down to the sheathing of your building, just like you would with siding or stone or any other product when you're renovating. You would remove everything down to your sheathing. You would put then a liquid water barrier over the exterior sheathing as a water protective barrier. You would then put this foam product, and on the back of the foam, you would actually trowel on an acrylic coating, which would create a channel-based setup to where that creates your channel for your water to escape should that get behind your product. Once the foam is on your building, then you go ahead with a base coat with a wire mesh, then a scratch coat, and then your finish coat. And the foam thicknesses vary. You could go up to minimum 1 inch, you can go up to 6 inches maximum. You'd want to check with your building codes and the architect who designed the product, but it could give you several different profiles on your building, say on the same elevation, which a lot of people find it to be very appealing. In addition to that, the colors are numerous. Most of the manufacturers can match almost every color that is put out by a Benjamin Moore or Sherwin-Williams. So from an aesthetic standpoint, the association has numerous colors from what to choose from. You could also make several designs on the building just by packing out the foam, and again, giving it different profiles that you'll see right around windows. For instance, on a lot of the properties, you'll see a foam build out. So around the windows where you see maybe an AZEK trim, if you're going with a vinyl product and an AZEK trim, you bump that out in foam, and that gives you a further protrusion, again, as an aesthetic appeal. Just like there's several manufacturers that are used out there. A lot of them require that the contractor has certifications. So you want to make sure that any contractor that you're using has the certification from the manufacturer. They also offer warranties. Some products that we use actually not only warranty their material, but they also warranty their labor. That's very important, especially as time goes on. Every association is budget conscious. And when it gets to the point where there's any potential problems from a workmanship problem or even a material failure, several manufacturers will not only warranty their material, but they'll also warranty their labor. Some of the benefits of the product, it does add an insulation value and R value, again, depending on the thickness of the foam that you use. There are different R values that come with that. It's easy to repair. Should there be any damage to it, you can literally cut out a small square if you need to and make the repair and do a color match, and it would blend right in with no major problems in color matching. Weather-wise, you still have to be considered with the weather in the winter time, but it does give you some flexibility, where versus a hard coat stucco, you're a little bit more stringent with the weather conditions that you use it on. So we have found this product to be unique. I think in our industry, it's not as prevalent as it can be. And I think, again, that's because of the history and the controversy that it's had in the past. But at the same time, we're seeing a lot of associations looking at this product as an alternative instead of maybe some of your typical, wood or vinyl or cement siding products. A lot of times this product is used to accent like an ASV stone, where you'll see the stone from the bottom 3 to 4 feet around your building, and then on top of that, you'll see this Eifs product. So that's really kind of what I have to say about it. Again, obviously you refer to the engineers and architects in the industry, but I can only say that this product, like most products, after it's been first developed to current time, it has changed, and with the new designs and the new codes, it's a viable product to use. In addition to that, from an application standpoint, what's interesting about this product is put in with a trowel base. So versus say a piece of vinyl siding that may have 18-foot lengths and cover say 8 inches in height, where you're putting panels up. This particular product is put up really what I would call by artists, because they are literally standing on scaffolding with a trowel, and just like you'd be troweling your concrete sidewalk, they're touching every ounce and every square foot of your building to put this product on. So it's quite an artistry at the same time for the application process. That's it.
Thanks, Chris. Let's see what questions we have. Are there manufacturer certifications for the installation of this product?
Yes, there are. Most major manufacturers stow, drive it. We use Decoplast as a manufacturer that we use a lot. They have certifications that you have to be certified installers to install it.
And what are some of the benefits of using this system?
Well, I think the benefits are mostly aesthetic in nature, because I think it gives you the opportunity. It has a different appearance than, as I said, a cementitious stucco. It's more of a smoother looking product compared to stucco. So I like the aesthetics of it versus a hard coat stucco system. Again, I think it gives you variation in applications during some of the cooler months. You can go ahead and apply it. I think the repair method, for instance, a damaged piece of siding, sometimes you have to replace an entire panel or take out several panels to get to that panel that may or may not be, that may be damaged. Where on this, you could literally, if it's on the second story of the building, you can put a ladder up, cut out the small square, repair it, replace it, put your color code on it, and it would be a small repair. There's not a lot of labor involved to do the repair.
Okay, what is Eifs and how prevalent is it used in our industry?
Well, again, Eifs is the acronym for Exterior Insulation Finishing System. So again, is it prevalent? I believe it is prevalent compared to as the other exterior products that could go on a building. I think it was very popular. I know it was very popular until it got the bad press, again, back in the late 70s, early 80s. Mid 80s, and now I think it's kind of coming back, because I see on some of our requests for proposals that we're getting, this product seems to be specified a lot more.
Looks like we have one more. How has this product evolved from its inception into the building trades industry?
Well, in the inception and what caused a lot of the problems, it was initially a barrier-free product. And a barrier is a barrier. Barrier, right, it kind of withholds things. So the barrier systems that were put up did not allow water to weep out, and that is the biggest difference. That's what precipitated all the lawsuits. When there was a workmanship issue, water penetrated the system, behind the system. It had no way to escape, and it literally rotted from the walls in instead of the walls out. So as a manager, as a unit owner, you would drive by a house or a building and it would look in tremendous shape. You could go inside the house, pull out the sheetrock, and then you would see nothing but rotted wood, and you could almost put your hand right through the wall. So now, again, with building codes changes, they have made a drainage system. So any water that comes out will weep out. There's weep holes at the bottom of the building, or at different levels, floor elevations. We put flashing systems, so if any water gets behind the system for whatever reason, it will weep out before it even has a chance to do any damage to the building. So that's the biggest change. It went from a barrier system to a drainage system.
Great. And that looks like it's all the questions for today's presentation. All right. Well, thank you, Chris, Kevin, and Brian, for your time. We really appreciate it. And thank you to all of our members who viewed us today. Again, if you need a certificate, please feel free to email me at jaclyn@CAI-NJ.org. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great rest of your week, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good day, all.
Thank you.